today we are going to learn how to make homemade all-natural butter. So we need a few ingredients for it, and you don't have to worry about writing all these down because I have it in the download section that's below the video lesson. So you can just click that download and either print it out or save it to your computer. It'll have all the ingredients and step-by-step of everything that we're doing today. So the first thing that we need some cream, some heavy cream. Since we don't have milking cows here on the homestead yet, we get our cream from a local farmer. So once we have our cream, we need to make sure that it's room temperature, about 58 degrees. You can use a candy thermometer, you can use an infrared thermometer, and we just want to make sure that that's at least 58 degrees because it will make the process go a whole lot smoother. Now there's a couple of ways that you can go about making butter. You can do it the easy and quick way, which we're going to show you here, or you can do it the old-fashioned way, which is kind of fun if you've got little ones around or you're wanting to build your muscles up, and do it in mason jars. So we're going to show you both ways to do that. So for the mixing method here, we are going to take the top off of that. We're going to pour this whole quart of heavy cream into the mixer. And we'll just set that aside. Put this splash top on, and it may or may not help. We've got a towel here just in case because it can tend to spray out a little bit, which is kind of one of the downsides of doing it this way. But anyway, we are going to turn this on and we're just going to let it mix for a little bit. I'll take this and show you kind of step by step what it does. The whole process shouldn't take but a couple of minutes. So once it starts to thicken up just a little bit, and you'll see the consistency will go from the cream that we poured to a thicker, almost like a whipping cream, hence the name, heavy whipping cream. Once it starts to get to that consistency, you can try to increase your speed a little bit. We started out on the low speed for it. You don't want to start out too high too soon. That's when you're going to get all that splatter, and that's not good. So we're just going to let this sit for just a couple of minutes and work, and then we will show you the end result. Okay, we're about halfway through the process, and I wanted to show you what it looks like at this stage. And you can see that this is just our heavy whipping cream at this point. So we're going to put it back in. And we're going to continue blending this. It's not going to take a whole lot longer from this point. And after you get past this whipping cream consistency stage, you'll really start to see the fat separate away. And it's kind of cool. It'll start to look like a little bit of a cottage cheese consistency. And then almost like a really smooth, creamy butter. And then it's going to really start to break down those and separate those fats out even more. And we'll get that nice butter ball here shortly. Okay, and now we have butter. What you're going to have is kind of a little ball of mess here, if you will. So you've got to get it out from the beater, and you can let it drop down back in. I never said it was a clean job. It is a fun job, and it's very rewarding to make your own butter. And it's a whole lot better for you than what you're buying in the store with all the preservatives that are in those things. So once we've got most of that out, we're going to take this off, and then we're going to get our hands down in there, and we're going to grab all of that. Just going to sit it on this piece of muslin cheesecloth for right now while we strain out the buttermilk. You'll have some pieces left over in there, so that's why I didn't want to do the next process yet until we finished all that. So you can take that butter that's in there. I don't have any that's left down in there. So now this is an important step that sometimes people will leave out or not give in their instructions, but we need to wash this butter. So what we're going to do is, this is an ice cold bowl of water. So we're just going to dip this down in here, and we're going to get this cooled, and we're going to rinse it off, because we want to get any of that liquid that's still in there out of there, so that it will help for it to last longer. And then we're just going to give it a gentle squeeze through the cheesecloth. Set that aside, and we can take, oh, we got a little ice cube in there. We don't need that. We can take that cheese out of, or butter out of there, and we have a beautiful ball of butter. Now there's a couple of things that you can do with it at this point. Right now it is unsalted butter, which is the way our family prefers to use butter. You can add salt to it if you want. And that process is called compounding, and we're going to go into the compounding process in the next video. But for recipe purposes, this is 2 cups of butter here that we started with, 2 cups of cream to make this butter. You'd use about a teaspoon of salt that you would mix into this if you wanted to have salted butter. Now, because we said that this has no preservatives in it, which is a good thing, it's also kind of a double-edged sword, because you can't sit it out on the counter like you would your regular butter, and you can't leave it in the refrigerator for really long periods of time because it doesn't have any preservatives in it. So you have a couple of options. What I typically tend to do is I will put it in a container. I will line it with parchment paper so it doesn't stick to it, and since I have a small batch here, it's going to work just perfect in here. We're going to put it in the parchment, put it down in the container, and then just kind of flatten it out. And then what I do with this is I put this whole container in the freezer, usually overnight, and then the next day I will take it out and I will slice it down into sections, and then I will put those sections into a plastic bag or another container and put them back in the freezer. Butter freezes extremely well. You can freeze butter for up to a year. So then when I need butter for my butter dish and to use for the week, I'll just pull a few of those strips of butter out and let it thaw, and you've got amazing, amazing butter. The other thing that I do, usually when I go through this whole process, I make enough butter for the family that's going to last us for about a year. So I do big batches. And when I do big batches, I pull out my soap mold that I use. And this will hold, let's see, what have I put in here? It will hold 4 quarts, so it'll hold a gallon of processed heavy cream perfectly. And then what I do is the same thing. I just line that with parchment paper, and then I mold my butter down in there. I stick it in the freezer. It pops right out of this silicone mold, super easy, and you can reuse the parchment paper. And then I just slice it down and put it in the freezer. Now, some of my butter I will do compounding with and freeze it that way. And we will talk about those in our next video. When you've siphoned off all of your buttermilk, it's great to drink. If you enjoy buttermilk, you can also use it in any recipes that call for buttermilk pancakes, buttermilk biscuits, and you can find recipes for those in our baking lessons. So I hope you enjoyed the journey with me today on how to make homemade all-natural butter. We will see you in the next lesson.